Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? It's a little earlier than usual. It is 9:56 p.m. on this rainy and damp Monday evening. And I just left Sarah's house because I was taking her some candle waxes. I was going to Meijer anyway, and she asked me if I was going there, if I would get her some. She likes eucalyptus and rosemary by this Fusion brand. So while I was there, I found these that are called Fireside Embers. They're like this color, but they smell like bonfire. I'm really into oh, they smell so good. I'm really into the bonfire smell this year inside my house. I don't know why. But anyway, I think I got 4 of them. And at Ulta today, I went to Ulta and went shopping, and I did a video for my Peter Does Stuff channel. At Ulta, I bought this candle. I'm gonna have to go there and buy more of them. You guys, the candle is like this big, first of all, okay? And it was expensive. It was $24, which I guess is the same as a 3-wick candle at Bath & Body Works, but it was $24, and it's like this wide, and then this thick, maybe this thick, and I got it, and it's called Pumpkin Vanilla, and it's 4 wicks, and I lit that thing in our house. The entire house smells like pumpkin vanilla. Like, I cannot believe it. So I'm either gonna have to get online and see if I can order more of that brand. It's called Homeworks or Houseworks with an X, and it's fantastic, you guys. It's absolutely fantastic. Probably one of the best candles I've ever had. I totally swear by it. And they're these really pretty like glass jars. If you go to my Peter Does Stuff video, I say what the brand is in there, and I show the candle so you can see it. But I was really excited about that. Speaking of the farmer's market that I'm driving by right now, let me tell you one thing that I was not excited about this morning. I was very, very sad about this morning. It was very sad. No, but I actually kind of did have a moment where I was kind of like, oh my God. So my big pumpkin that I got, that I was so excited because the stem is like this long and it twists and stuff. It looks like a Halloween, a Cinderella, perfect pumpkin stem. I walk outside today, and I actually thought at first, I was like, did some kid in this neighborhood do this? I become that neighbor, right? The stem was laying on the ground, and I could see inside the pumpkin. And I was like, are you kidding me? So I pick up the stem, because I could remember that the stem was like, I can remember not wanting to pick it up by the stem because I was afraid that if I did, that it would pull off the pumpkin. Because the pumpkin was heavier, obviously, than the stem. So I was very careful of that. But it wasn't any kids or anything like that. It has rained the last 2 days, and that pumpkin is like right underneath like where the rain is, like constant. And so it soaked the area around the stem, and the stem fell off because I could see around that area it was like real mushy. And then the pumpkin, it rained into the inside of the pumpkin, and the pumpkin was leaking out from underneath. I was like, is this really my life that this is happening right now? I was so sad about it. So now I gotta get another pumpkin. It's an excuse to go back and get another pumpkin, but that's why I'm always like, why buy your pumpkins the first week of October? Because they're not gonna make it to Halloween anyway. And my other pumpkin is fine, but this pumpkin I'm gonna have to throw it away. It's gone at this point. And the insides are gross and mushy. And anyway, yeah, I even like got it on my hands, and then I went inside and it stank. It smelled like moldy moldy pumpkin. It just was disgusting. So I was like, or like musky pumpkin. And so I was like, okay. So I washed my hands, and it's still there. I pushed the stem back down into it and kind of twisted it into the pumpkin so it would sit there until I bought another pumpkin. And trash doesn't come till Thursday, so I'm like, I can't throw this pumpkin away until Thursday anyway. So I'll just leave it out there, I guess, until Thursday. If I put it in the trash can, it'll just stink. It'll stink the trash up between now and then. So I'm not going to do that. But anyway, got up today, went into I stayed up so late last night, you guys, listening to that podcast, Your Own Backyard. I'm like obsessed with that podcast. Well, I finished it actually. Today, right before I stopped at Sarah's, I finished the last episode, which takes place July of this year. And now there's been like a court trial, but he didn't follow up with anything that's happened since, so I don't know. I'll have to look it up or something. But anyway, now I'm listening to The Orange Tree, which somebody recommended to me. And it's about a woman that was murdered, I think, in Texas. So the condos are called something like, where she was found, it's like the Orange Tree condos or something. So I'm listening to that one next. And then I'm going to listen to the third Aurora Tea Garden book. And then once I finish that, although I haven't really listened to a book today or late last night, I just listened to the podcast. Once I finish that, I'm going to listen to The House of Gucci. And then this upcoming Sunday, Alex and I are going to a chili cook-off that some people he works with are hosting or hosting or something. And then I'm going to go it's from like 1 to 5, but I'm going to go from 1 to 3. And then I'm going to go home and do the live stream for the book club. And that's on Sunday. So, busy. And Saturday, we have our friend's couple's baby shower. And that's in the afternoon. And Friday night, we were going to go see Steve Aoki. But I was like, Alex has to get up early on a Saturday to set up the baby shower. And I was like, that's a lot going on this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Like, I don't know, like, on top of that, I'll want to make videos too. So I was like, yeah, that's a lot. I think maybe take a break, not do everything. We've seen Steve Aoki before anyway. I mean, I really like Steve Aoki, but I'd be okay if I didn't see him again. You know what I mean? So I decided that I was going to come and vlog now instead of waiting till later, because if I waited till later, I probably would be too tired, and then I would want to sleep. So I was like, let's go vlog now. So I got up today, did a bunch of stuff around the house. It like rained, then stopped today. And I went and did my crumble cookie review, which they were really good this week. And like all of them were really good. There was one that was just okay. The pink donut one was like just okay. But the rest of them were really good. By the way, I only have one battery, so when this battery starts dying, I'm going to have to stop the vlog. Because I didn't think that I was going to come. I mean, I guess I could go home and get another battery, but I'm not going to. Yeah, the cookies at Crumble Cookies were really good this week, except for like the pink donut one. It was a cute concept, but I just wasn't real blown away with the donut or with the cookie. And then after that, I went to Ulta and I went shopping, but I uploaded it, and I knew that this would probably happen, so I had already recorded this part to kind of like put in there, because when I was in the store, the music was so loud that what happens is when you upload it, it like immediately gets claimed, copyright claimed by, and it doesn't hurt your channel, but it immediately gets copyright claimed by whoever like put that music out, whichever song it is. Which means A, that they make all the money off your video because you have the sound on it, which is whatever. You know, it's not like I'm making bank on that channel anyway. But two, the problem is that certain countries won't allow it then to be played. So, like, it might only get played in the United States. That's happened on a couple of my videos where there's been music in the background that got copyright claimed. And so I uploaded the video, and as soon as I uploaded it, it said, this has been claimed by such and such person. And I was like, oh. So I went back in and I re-edited the video, and I put this like little playful music over it, and over me talking, and then I uploaded, the video again, and the second time it went up. People seem to be enjoying it. People seem to enjoy the shopping videos. But I do. I think they're fun. I have fun on those videos. So then after Ulta, Alex called, and he had this like work conference meeting thing all day long at this golf course. And so he was like, at the end, they were having like appetizers and a drink at this place, this golf course. And he was getting ready to come home. And he said he was going to stop by Sarah's. And I was still out. And so, well, before he said he was going to stop by Sarah's, he said that he was going to go home. And so I didn't want to have to like set up the camera and all that kind of stuff if he was going to go home. I just wanted him to be able to relax. So I had already kind of decided that I was going to make a rant video anyway. So I pulled into this parking lot that I usually pull into by DSW. And I did a rant video. And then I came home and I fed the pups. Then Alex told me that he was going to stop by Sarah's. I fed the pups. And then I did the videos. And then I was watching Halloween 3 in the background, which I did not remember very well. I remembered it was about the masks, but I didn't really remember a whole lot after that. But it's not a great movie. Melissa and I are going to have a talk about that, because she loves Halloween 3. And I'm like, what is it that you love about this? It's very science fiction-y, first of all. It almost kind of seems more like an early days Stephen King movie to me than whatever. I think that I cannot get this eyelash out of my eye. I've been trying, you guys, for days, and it's like driving me crazy. So then I did that, and then I was going to run to Meijer to get a few things. Well, I was getting ready to run to Meijer to get a few things. And so Sarah had asked me if I was going to Meijer tonight. And I said yes. And she was like, can you pick me up rosemary, eucalyptus rosemary, and amber cashmere? That's her favorite. It's kind of like a personal joke between us, amber cashmere. But they didn't have any amber cashmere. They only had rosemary. And so I picked her up a bunch of other kinds of rosemary, eucalyptus. So I picked her up a bunch of other kinds as well, and she was real excited about that. They're only $2 for the wax melts, so it's kind of fun to get different stuff. They had a lot of really good wax melts right now. She likes the Fusion brand, and she likes the ones that are like very spa smelling. And so they had a lot of kitchen scent ones. And actually, when I was leaving her house, I was like, Sarah, you have kitchen scent ones right here. If I knew that, I would have got you some like fall smelling kitchen scent ones. And she's like, well, I think I have enough now. I was like, yeah, I think you do. So anyway, and then Alex was leaving too when I left. We were just kind of like catching up. It was nice. And now he's gonna go home and relax before he goes to bed. He'll probably go to bed really soon because it's past 10 o'clock already. And I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna listen to a little bit of this audiobook, the Aurora Tea Garden book, and then I'm gonna listen to, because I need to finish it in like 2 days so I can start it on Wednesday, or start the House of Gucci on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It gives me 4 days, and it's 6.5 hours I have to listen to. So is that about an hour and a half a day that I have to listen to? Yeah, which that's fine. And if I get that book done by tomorrow night. But I want to listen to one more Aurora Tea Garden book, because I really, really like them. I really like that series. This car like just rolled all the way back and like the guy looked right at me. He just like purposely like was reversing, and then he looked right at me through this tinted window, and I can't see him at all. I'm like, what are you looking at? In your big Jeep Wrangler. I'll look back at you. I can't see him in there though. So that was my day. The dogs didn't really want to go outside and play a whole lot today because it was so wet and gross outside. I don't mind days like this if I don't have anywhere to go. But I really do. Like, I love rainstorms late at night, like when you're sleeping and all that kind of stuff or whatever. But like at home, like to just like walk, the neighbors aren't outside. You can't walk outside and just sit on your front porch and talk to people. And the dogs don't like to run around in the grass because it's so wet and gross. Tucker hardly will even get in the grass if it's wet. And so yeah, we've had like 2 days of rain. I'm ready for it to slow down and stop. Oh, I filled my gas tank up today. I was going to do that last night, but I never did, so I filled my gas tank up today. Real exciting stuff I did, you know. It's been a real exciting day today, let me tell you. Where should I go tomorrow? Dollar Tree, Five Below, Shoe Carnival, TJ Maxx Home Goods, TJ Maxx Home Goods. I thought Shoe Carnival might be kind of fun. I haven't been into a shoe carnival in a long time, so I thought, well, that might be a kind of fun video to do for my Let's Go Shopping. See, and then I could take it on the road because, like, whenever I'm out of town, I could go into different stores and see different stores in other towns as well. Wouldn't that be so fun? I think that would be so very cool. Oh, man. They got all kinds of Halloween stuff hanging from their car. They got ghosties hanging. And they have spider webs on the back windows. And they have big stickers of ghosts all over their car. They're like all decorated for Halloween. That's cool. That California burger, it's still not open. Time is funny, isn't it? It's like, you know, when I was like growing up, well, when I was in high school, I always stayed up late. But when I was like in elementary and junior high, like I had a pretty consistent bed schedule, if I remember correctly. And, you know, I would, okay, there's that food truck again, but it's in a different place. I thought it was down here, or are there two of them? I wonder what's in that food. I wonder what they have. But, you know, like, I can even remember in the summers when I was a kid, like, I didn't go to bed super early, but I can remember my mom would be like, okay, come inside. It's time to, like, you know, take a bath. And I took a bath every night, put my pajamas on, and got into bed and read a book. That was like, I mean, I did that a lot, you know, not every night, I'm sure, but like most nights, that's what I did. Here's that food truck right here. I wonder what food truck it is. I like food trucks. I can't see what it says. But you know that my mom, I must have been in bed when I was a kid by like 9 o'clock because my mom always watched the movie, the 9 o'clock movie from like 9 to 11, and then the nightly news. And I can remember laying in bed listening to her having it on in the other room. So I'm like, well, I must have gone to bed early. And you know, like with my dad, when I would stay with my dad, especially when I was like in elementary and junior high, my dad always went to bed early. Like always. Like between 8 and 9. So I'm sure my dad was just, I mean, I don't remember staying up like at his apartment, you know, or before, like when he moved into his house. I was 12 when he moved into his house. I don't remember like going there and staying up late by myself. I remember just like, we would all, you know, go to bed at the same time. So, at my dad's house, though, it was pretty, like, I wouldn't say a rigid schedule, but, like, when I would go over there, like, during the week, like, if we didn't go out to dinner somewhere, we would, like, my dad would cook. He always cooked, like, a steak. He made spinach souffle, Stouffer spinach souffle I used to love, and wild rice and a glass of milk, and then some kind of cookies for dessert. He let me get whatever kind of cookies I wanted to. Well, when my dad moved into his house, my stepmom moved in there right around the same time. Before that, at his apartment, he would cook the same thing. But we would watch like a movie together, from like, you know, I don't know, 6 to 8 or something like that, or some TV show, and then we would go to bed. Like, I went to bed early when I stayed at my dad's house. And, you know, it's funny, I think, like, back, because, you know, I'm tired a lot sometimes, and I think back on, like, maybe I always needed a lot of sleep. You know, when I was in high school, like, yeah, I would stay up late, and I would get, like, 6 hours of sleep a night, something like that. But I would come home a lot of days. Like, I would go eat with, if I didn't go eat with my friend Margaret, because she and I would go eat sometimes after school, and we would go to Wendy's, and we would get double cheeseburgers plain, with Frosties and fries. Oh my God, so good. And if we didn't do that, because then I can remember I'd come home and my mom would be so upset that I went and ate somewhere. So like most of the time I'd just lie and wouldn't tell her. But we did that a lot. We went to Castleton Wendy's and we would eat, what do you call it? Double cheeseburgers plain with fries and Frosties. And we would do that a couple times a week. But on the days that we didn't, I would come home and I would take a nap, like as soon as I got home from school for like 2-3 hours, and then we would eat dinner. And I remember my mom and I sometimes, like when I was in high school, eating dinner late. I think probably because she got off work late. You know, my mom worked a couple different jobs when I was in high school, from, you know, but I think because she got off late, she'd get off at like 7 or 8 or something like that, and then she would make dinner, and then we would eat at like 8 or 9. I just remember eating later when I was in high school with my mom. I feel like, maybe not always, but often I feel like we ate later, and I would take a nap from like 4 to 6 or 7. Or maybe we would eat around 7, I don't know. I can just remember being upstairs sleeping with the fan on, and my mom being like, dinner time, and I would come downstairs. The dog and I would take a nap together. When I was growing up, we had a wire-haired fox terrier, and he was a very sweet dog, and he looked like Asta from the Thin Man series. I think that might have been partly why we got him, because my mom loved that series, but he was a runner. Well, we were watching some show the other day, and I thought of him because it was Salt Lake City. It was Meredith's dog, and she was like holding onto the dog when people were coming into the house, and she was like, you can't let him get out because he'll run away. Like, our dog, like if he got outside, he ran like miles away, and people would call us and they'd be like, we found your dog. And so we would always have to like hold him like right by the door when people came in and out. And if people like came in and they didn't know, like he'd always get outside. And so we had to be like really, really careful with that. And he was such a sweet dog though. And I remember he would take naps with me after school. He lived to be like 18 years old. I can always remember like laying upstairs in bed, and he would be at the end of the bed, and I'd have that fan on me, and I just would sleep. So I think, like, you know, if I slept 2 or 3 hours in, and then I don't know, I remember that on the weekends I always slept in. My mom slept in though too. You know, like I can remember like friends of mine complaining because their parents would be like, if I sleep past 8 or 9 o'clock on the weekend, my parents are in there being like, there's yard work to be done. My mom always slept in, always. My mom was not early to rise. So, like, for me to sleep in was nothing. And my dad and my stepmom, like, I don't remember, maybe they did, but I just don't remember them being real put out if I slept, like, even till, like, noon on a weekend. I think that, like, my stepmom was real good with that kind of stuff. Like, that's just what kids do kind of thing, you know? And so, like, I had responsibilities at the house, and I had things I had to do, and I always had chores at both houses and all that kind of stuff, and it was expected that I would interact with, you know, my mom, or interact with my dad and my stepmom or whatever. But I don't remember them ever being put out. Like, my parents were pretty, like, liberated when it came to parenting. I mean, like, they just were not put out if I slept in. I mean, if I had slept till 3 or 4, they would have had a huge issue with it. But sleeping till like 10 or noon on a Saturday or a Sunday, I just don't remember them having huge issues with it. So I think maybe I caught up on my sleep on the weekends or something. I don't know. But I also didn't sleep that late, like in the summers, because I can remember getting up early and like helping my stepmom with like plants, and she always had like tons of plants, and they have all these fountains and stuff all around their pool, and plants, and she always had tons of plants out front of the house, and all the way down from the pool to all the way down to the dock in front of the house that they had at the time. And so part of my job was to get up and water every plant that was there, and skim and clean the pool and all that kind of stuff. And I remember that taking like an hour, 2 hours. I remember the summer that I lost a lot of weight. I would get up and I would eat breakfast, which was like 2 of those sausage biscuit things. My dad loved these like Jimmy Dean sausage biscuit things that were like these really small ones. Do you guys remember those? And I would have those, and with like a glass of orange juice, and then they were like little Jimmy Dean sausage biscuits, and my dad always had tons of them in the freezer. He would take them out of the box and just put them in there in the plastic things. So I can still like almost kind of taste them right now. It's weird. They have like smoky taste to them. And I would heat up like 2 of those and eat those with orange juice and drink a big glass. My dad always had fresh squeezed orange juice with pulp in it. I think he and I might be 2 of the only people that like pulp in our orange juice. I love pulp in my juice. And pulp in my orange juice especially, but like grapefruit juice as well. And I love tomato juice and apple. I love juices, period. Apple juice, tomato juice, all of it. So then I would go down and I would water all the plants and skim and clean the pool. And then I would go in, and that was the summer that I did the Jane Fonda low impact conditioning video. And it was like 45 minutes long, I think. And I would do the entire thing. And then I would go and swim like 20 or 30 laps. And I was in such great shape that summer, and I lost a bunch of weight. That was when, I think that was going into 10th grade. I always think it was going into 11th grade, but I really think it was going into 10th grade. I'm just not sure, I don't remember. Maybe it was 10th going into 11th. But my 10th grade year, the summer after my 10th grade year, I turned 16 and I got my driver's license, so then I could drive and go places. And I did stay with my dad a lot because my mom was working a lot. And so if I was at my dad's house, like I could swim and do all that kind of stuff and whatever. So, but I did stay like a week at my mom's and a week at my dad's. I was always really good about like separating time. And my parents were very cool about it too. Like if I wanted to be at my mom's house, because then I was closer to my friends, like my dad didn't get his feelings hurt or anything. Like if it was like a Friday night and I wanted to like stay in Carmel versus going to his house, like my dad didn't get like all upset about it. Or, you know, if it was like a holiday and my dad had the last holiday, but he wanted to take me somewhere, like my mom didn't get upset or been out of shape. Like they were both really, really good about that. You know, in fact, I feel so blessed that I really never ever saw, I mean, I can think of like 2 or 3 occasions where my parents fought, not physically, but like verbally, you know, argued. And other than that, they were always very, very supportive of each other. I'm gonna turn around here. They were always very, very supportive of each other. And, you know, if I ever said anything about my dad, my mom would be like, you don't talk about your father that way, and vice versa. You know, if I ever said anything about my mom, my dad would say, you do not speak about your mother that way, you know. And so I very rarely ever said anything bad about them. They parented on the same page. You know, they both were extremely involved in my education and going to like school programs and things like that. And I just feel really blessed about that, you know? I never, like, thought, like, I knew that my parents did not like each other very well, but I never thought they hated each other. You know what I mean? Now, there was a period that my mom and dad, and I honestly, I don't really know what was going on at the time, but I walked into a horrible argument that my mom and my dad were having on the phone, and I walked into my mom having, like, on her side of it, and I could hear her shouting at my dad, but I could hear him shouting back too. But I wasn't, like, super young. Like, I think that may have almost been after I was sober or something. I honestly can't remember. And I can remember saying to my mom, do you know what it's like to be the product of so much anger? Because I was, okay, it stopped. But I said that, do you know what it feels like to be the product of so much anger? Because it really frustrated me. But I think in retrospect, like, it really frustrated me because they rarely ever argued. Like, I never saw them argue. So, like, the night that my dad left the house that I grew up in, I can remember the night that he left. And I remember my mom screaming at my dad, but I don't remember and crying, screaming and crying. But I don't remember my dad, like, saying anything back. Like, I just remember him kind of, like, placating her a little bit. And then there was one other argument before my dad and my stepmom were married, that my dad came to pick me up and my stepmom was in the car, and my mom just, like, everybody was in the cul-de-sac playing and stuff, and my mom, like, lost it that he brought her to the house. That was, like, the other occasion that I remember. Other than that, like, I don't really remember them arguing. I mean, there was a couple things that happened through the years, but that was really it. Like, there just really wasn't a whole lot, you know? And in fact, when they would, like, you know, when my dad would come to pick me up, because he would come to my house and pick me up or come to school, you know, my mom and him would always get along well, and he would always say, hey, how are you? And she'd say, fine, and you know, and he'd say, like, you know, have you had somebody come and look at this or look at that? And she'd say, yeah, I called somebody, or, you know, he'd say, I've got a number if you need me to, you know, call for you, or whatever, stuff to do with the house or whatever. She'd have questions about things to do with the house, but, like, they always, I mean, it wasn't like, have a beer, let's joke around. I mean, it was very civil, but it was like they didn't argue. And I can remember, like, kind of, like, hurrying my dad along, like, you know, I think I was always afraid it was going to turn into something, you know, and I'd always be like, kind of like, come on, dad, let's go. But you have to remember that was also, like, when my mom was in the middle of her drinking, you know, and so I think I was worried that, like, well, I forgot the one Christmas that that was the Christmas after my dad left, and I think they tried to have my dad there because to make it easier on me, and my mom just got intoxicated beyond belief, and it was like this horrific fight between she and my dad, and I don't really remember a whole lot of it. I just remember my dad left because my aunt was like, just go, just leave. And he left, and my mom screaming and crying and being like, everybody leaves, kind of thing. And then I remember my mom at some point, like, screaming and yelling at my aunt, and so they left. And then it was just my mom and I remember my dad's nurse, who was kind of part of the family, because she just, like, picked me up a lot and took me to things, and she just was very active in my life, and she was such a wonderful woman. She passed away last year, and she came to pick me up. That was Christmas Day night, and I left, and I remember she took me to my dad's apartment, and I think I talked about this on here not too long ago, because my dad, who, like, he's not all for, like, festivities of holidays, he had gotten a Christmas tree just for me to have, like, when we did, because we would do Christmas, like, 23rd, and, like, I would be there all day the 23rd and then the 24th, and he would bring me back on the 24th, and I would do Christmas with my mom the 24th and the 25th, and that's how it was always. And so he had this Christmas tree up, and, like, the Christmas tree was gone, and I can remember I said something to him about, where's the Christmas tree, and he said, in the woods. And I remember I went over the balcony and I looked, and he was on the 3rd floor of this apartment complex, and he had, like, literally taken the tree and just, like, thrown it in the woods. But anyway, and I remember being really worried. I think this is so weird. that my mom was gonna be upset that I left. Something like that. Like, I was worried she was gonna be mad at me that I left, that she was gonna break my toys or something like that, which my mom never did that stuff, so I don't know why that was my fear. But yeah, that was probably the worst fight that they ever had. And that was like I don't know why they ever thought that having my dad over there for Christmas was a good idea, but yeah. But other than that, they just didn't. They got along, you know, like, I think for me, you know, they went to school functions together, PTA things. They went together for me, I think, to be present for, you know, the best of me and whatever. And I'm grateful for that. It's weird looking back to things you remember, you know? I remember that it wasn't Christmas, it was January when my dad left. And I know that because he's told me that. He told my mom in August on his 40th, he left on January after his 40th birthday. He told my mom that he was leaving in January. He, like, wanted to prepare her or something. My dad's, like, this guy that's, like, always trying to do the right thing, you know? But, like, sometimes you think, well, was it really the right thing? I don't know. So he told my mom in August that he was leaving in January. They were actually on the way back from his 40th birthday. It was 3 couples had gotten a place at Lake Monroe in Bloomington. And she asked him if he was cheating, and he said no. He said, but neither one of us is happy, and one of us deserves to have a happy life, and I know you're not going to leave, so I'm going to leave so that we can both have a happier life, because we're not happy together. And so she went from, like, a size, like, 14. Like, my mom was never heavy, but she was kind of plus size at that time. She went from, like, a size, maybe 12. I think she was like a size 10 or 12, and she went to a size 0 from August to January. She used to always talk about that because she said that those months were the most unhealthiest months of her life. I do think, in retrospect, and I've talked to my dad about this, and I don't know that I think that was a little bit cruel to but he was like, well, I wanted to prepare your mom, you know? Like, and I'm like, okay, but I don't know. So, you know, in her mind, what my mom told me later was, I'm going to get myself looking as good as I possibly can, because then he's going to want me back. And if he doesn't want me back, then I'll be single and I'll look the hottest I ever did. And she, you know, I mean, my mom looked good, but she was super thin. And I think she was drinking a lot at that time. And she was really unhappy. And, I mean, she would always say that to me. Like, I can't remember. I think she was a size 10. Because she said, I went from a size 10 to a size 0 in 4 months. And I was like, what? You know, she was like, she used to always say that. And she was like, it was like the unhealthiest, it was like traumatic weight loss. And she was like, I have to lose this weight. Like, I don't know why she thought it was about her weight, but she would always talk about later how unhealthy that was. And she'd say that was like the most unhealthy time of my life. But I remember the night that my dad left, and he had like an old army parka, and the only thing he took was an alarm clock. And I remember they were at the top of the stairs, and they were talking, and my mom was like kind of like begging him not to leave. And I don't remember where I was. If I was upstairs, the way I see it, I would have been upstairs. But at some point, my dad stopped the conversation and called my mom's friend who lived across the street. And her daughter came over, Jessie, who was like one of my, you know, I talk about Jessie and Katie, who were my girlhood friends. And it was probably like 8 o'clock at night, and it was like snowing outside. And I remember that she came over, and she, like, her parents had been divorced, and her mom had gotten remarried. And I remember she said something to me about, like, it's gonna be okay. I mean, and we were at that time, you guys, like, I was young, and she was like 2 or 3 years older than me. Like, I think about that, and like, we were both so young, and I can remember she said something to me, like, my mom told me to come over, and you're gonna be okay, and I can remember we walked up and down that street until my dad's car drove away singing Christmas carols. I don't know why Christmas carols, but it was like snowing outside, and I remember she held my hand the whole time, and we walked up and down the street, and around the cul-de-sac, and up and down the street, I mean, like, for probably 45 minutes, until I saw my dad's car leave. And we sang Christmas carols. And then she took me back. And then her mom came over. And, I think. And then that was it. And then I remember, it was like 2 days and I hadn't talked to my dad or something. And I got into my mom's purse. And, it's so weird because I still know this number to this day, okay? And the reason that I still know this number is because it ended up being my private line at my dad's house. And I can hear it in my head, the number. It used to be my private line at my dad's house, which then ended up, when I moved into my apartment, I transferred that number from my dad's. Do you remember you used to have private lines in your bedroom? I had a private line in my bedroom. And so that way if the phone rang at night, it wouldn't wake my dad up. So then that was my first, that was the phone number that I had at my apartment. And I had that phone number until like I moved in to the condo. Isn't that so crazy? So anyway, but I can remember like wanting to, I don't know how I just correlated all that and remembered that. But anyway, I can remember wanting to know what my dad's number is, and my mom had it written down somewhere like in her purse or something, and I got in and I found it, and then I had a bunch of like, whenever I would go to my dad's office, I would always like take medical supplies and bring them home, and I always had like tongue depressors and like ace bandages, and I used to have a thing I called my edgy. It was like my blanket when I was a little kid, and it was like actually an ace bandage that had ripped and been knotted so many times and washed in the washing machine and lost and everything like that. It looked like it looked like a rag, but it was, I called it my edgy. And because I would edge it, I would suck my thumb and I would edge it. And I got a tongue depressor, and I must have written down on it something like dad and then his phone number. And I remember my mom found it because I put it like underneath like my underwear drawer or something like that. And my mom found it, and I remember she like pulled me aside with the tongue depressor, and she said, I can remember her asking me why I did it, and I think like I didn't know what to say or something. I don't really remember. And she was like, you know that you can talk to your dad whenever you want. And this was like really big. Like both of my parents always made it very clear that their problems were not about me, and that my dad did not leave me. It wasn't like he left my mom and I, that he and my mom couldn't live together anymore, and they weren't in love with each other, but they still loved each other very much, but they weren't in love with each other. Like that was communicated to me a lot. And so my mom was like, anytime that you want to call your dad, you can call your dad, you can have his phone number, you can dial it anytime you want, you can ask me to dial it for you. And I think maybe that was when the phone call situation started happening, where my dad would call every morning and every night. Maybe that's when it started. I don't know. But they didn't keep stuff secrets from me. I mean, they didn't tell me stuff that was going on, not with like divorce proceedings and stuff. I do know later, and I don't know the date that it happened, but I can tell you that like my mom always said that one of her most devastating moments ever was the day that their divorce was final. And I don't remember, I don't think I knew what that date was, maybe. I don't know, maybe I did. I don't remember stories the way that I used to, but I just remember her later telling me that she felt like it was the end of Camelot. That's how she described it. And she just was like, this thing that I always thought was going to be perfect in my life, was like, had fallen apart. And she was like, and I couldn't fix it. I think it was really hard. They had like a really long separation and divorce. Like it was like 5 years or something, 3 to 5 years. It was long. And I kind of think my mom, there was a part of her that always thought that they would like get back together, even though there was like no, like my dad never showed that. But my mom she would still say this if she was sitting here today. Like, she believes that a marriage under the eyes of God is sacrament and that you don't break that. And she would say, I never wanted a divorce. I got a divorce because I was forced to have a divorce, but I never wanted a divorce, you know. And she didn't believe in divorce. She didn't like divorce. And so it really screwed with her. And you know, she would always say, I took my vows very seriously, like, till death do us part kind of thing, you know? So I don't know. My dad said to me later, and I mean, he said this to me, I mean, even in the last couple years when we would talk about my mom, we don't really talk about her as much anymore, but he would say, I don't think your mom, he was like, you know, your mom was, she loved you. I mean, my mom did. Like, that was the thing. Like, I didn't find this out till later. This is interesting. I don't talk much about this on here. Maybe I have, but I haven't in a while. My mom wasn't the one that wanted me. My dad did. And I was kind of like an attempt to save a marriage. But my dad was really the one that wanted to have a child. He didn't care if it was a son or a daughter, but he was the one that really wanted a child. My mom wasn't so convinced she wanted a child. But after I was born, my mom, kind of like everything became about me. And, you know, like my dad said, he gave a eulogy at my mom's funeral, and he said, you know, the thing that she was most proudest of in her life was her son, you know, that Peter, and I think that's true. I think my mom didn't know before she had a child how much she wanted to have a child. And she would say to me later, I wish I had given you a brother or a sister. And, you know, not until I had you. I mean, she loved being an only child mother, but she would also say, I always kind of wished I had had more kids. But this is so funny. I was just talking about that, about like God and stuff like that. And it says stewardship over here. That's so interesting, isn't it? But anyway, my mom, she didn't want kids. She didn't really want to get married. My dad would say he had to kind of convince her of both. And she got married because she was like, it was the thing that you did. That's what she would tell me. She was like, that's what everybody did. You got married. Like, what was I going to do? Not get married? And she was like, I loved your dad, and that was the point that we were at, and so I got married. And so my dad hadn't really proposed to my mom. Like, they had kind of talked about it. But at my aunt and uncle's wedding reception, my dad, like, proposed to my mom at my aunt and uncle's wedding reception in front of everybody during his toast. And so my mom was like put on the spot. She was like, what am I supposed to do? Say no? And she loved my dad. They've been dating for 5 years. You know, I think it was 5 years, 3 years at that point. But then when they got married, they had made a decision to be together for 5 years before having kids, because they wanted to just enjoy each other as a couple before having kids. Well, the longer that it went, my mom wasn't sure that she wanted to have kids. And then their marriage wasn't doing great. And my dad was like, I think that if we had a child, it would really help our marriage. And he was working a lot, and she was resentful about the working a lot, I think. She never really said that, but it was like long hours and whatnot, you know. And he was doing his residency at Northwestern at the time. And so he was like 48 on, you know, 12 off, 48. I mean, it was a lot. And so they had a child, and that was me. And, but you know, like my dad has said this to me a lot. He said, or often, he has said, I think your mom would have been happier had she never gotten married and had kids. And you know, honestly, I really agree with that. Like my mom, as she got older, like after she got sober and she lived in the condo and she felt safe in the condo, she did not feel safe in the house that I grew up in. She said it's too big. She was like, I didn't need that much house. It was like too much house for me. And she was like, it scared me. I didn't like being there in the woods. But when she got in the condo and it was like smaller and she felt safe there and she felt safe in her neighborhood, even if she didn't love all of her neighbors, right? She became a different person. Like she was very happy. You know, she'd some nights stay up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning watching like some movie marathon and eating a gallon of ice cream. Other nights she'd go to bed at 7 and she'd be up at 5 o'clock in the morning walking. She loved to walk, you know? And I don't think my mom really started enjoying her life until she got sober. And then, you know, she would say to me a lot, like, or often she would say, you know, I wish I had a partner in life to share things with and to travel with and go to movies. And she would say, but I don't know that I ever want to be with somebody again that's going to say, okay, it's 10 o'clock, we need to go to bed. Because my mom had a lot of friends that would be like, okay, at 10 o'clock, they turn the TV off and they're like, come on, let's go to sleep. And she's like, I don't want somebody telling me how to live my life anymore. Like, I enjoy being independent. And I think my mom always enjoyed being independent. And I think that she, had she accepted the divorce for what it was and been like, okay, I get to be independent now, and my ex-husband took very good care of me, and I can just basically live the life that I want to live. Because she could for many, 20 plus years, I think that she would have been a lot happier. But I think she constantly saw herself as this failure of a marriage, especially in God's eyes, that she could never kind of reconcile that to just accept and enjoy her independence. But when she got sober, that all changed. She got sober, and it's it's like when she would start wearing V-neck t-shirts again and be like, if men want to look at my breasts, look, I don't care anymore. I'm not covering it up. I'm going to be comfortable. I'm going to wear what I want to wear, and her style changed and everything changed when she got sober, and she just kind of became a different person. It was herself, but it was a liberated version of herself, and I think she drank out of fear. I think she self-medicated for years and years and years, fear and depression. I think she was led by fear and depression, and this idea that she failed because of this marriage. She would talk about that until she passed away, months before, she was talking about it. And I'd just be like, Mom, okay, finally, at some point, you gotta let go of this, and move through the pain. And there are Christmas trees at Sullivan's Nursery. I cannot believe this. Are we for real? But I think she struggled with that, but she really did enjoy her independence, and she enjoyed, being free and being able to, free to be you and me, and go out with her girlfriends or say yes or say no and whatever. There's a lot about being free and being liberated, and I think that was one thing that Alex and I regained from marriage counseling, was that when we got into this relationship, he and I were both extremely independent people that weren't really willing to get rid of our independence. But what happened almost immediately was that we clung to each other, and then we were constantly with each other, I remember one of the things that Alex used to say to me when we started dating, and he was right. He would say, I wish I had a chance to miss you. He would say, because we see each other so much, and it was kind of it was a product of circumstances, because we were a one-car family, so I had to drive him to work and school, and and then I'd pick him up in the evening, and we'd go out to eat and go work out and whatever. But we were together so much that it kind of formed this codependency that I was like, I don't know who I am if I'm not Alex's boyfriend. And he felt similar to that too, because we talked about it in marriage counseling. He didn't know who he was if he wasn't Peter's boyfriend. And we were very independent people coming into this relationship. The battery's flashing, so I'm going to have to end this. But, that was probably one of the most valuable things that I learned in marriage counseling was, I'm not in this relationship because I have to be, or I need to be, or because who am I without Alex, and vice versa. I'm in this relationship because I choose for my husband to be there. And I choose to be there. And he chooses for me to be there. And he chooses to be there. And yes, if something happened, I would be very sad about it. I would be really upset. But we're both going to make it eventually and be okay on the other side, I said to Alex the other night, we were laying down to go to bed, and I said, I just want you to know. He goes, why are you saying this? I said, well, I've been listening to true crime podcasts, and horrible stuff happens, and I just want you to know this. I want you to know that I love you, and you have just given me a life beyond my wildest dreams, and I really appreciate it. But if something ever happens to me, I want you to go on and have other life too. I want you to continue to enjoy your life. I don't want your life to stop because of me. We had this kind of very serious talk for a moment, about how much we love each other. But I feel so blessed to have my husband, Alex, as a life partner. And I hope that we are next to each other till we can't be anymore. But my life is not defined by him either. And I feel like that's really a healthy place for me to be today. And I wasn't there for much of my life. Much of my life, I felt like I needed a man to define me. I felt like I wasn't okay if I wasn't in a relationship. I felt like, who was I if there wasn't someone there to love me or need me or desire me? And that's just not how I feel today, you know? And I know that I'm okay on my own, and I feel very blessed that he chooses for me to be there and I choose to be by his side, you know? All right, well, let me get off here now. This was a serious vlog tonight. My gosh, what a serious vlog. I didn't expect this. Let me get off here now before the battery dies. And so, if nobody else has told you this today, I love you. I hope that you guys are having a magically amazing Tuesday. It's my home group night, one of my favorite nights of the week. And I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya! Oh, and while I still have time, while the battery's flashing at me, I hope I make it. For those that want to hear it, for those that need to hear it, and for those that have stuck around, one more, I love you. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya!